repeated exactly
Yeah,
what
sure,
you said.
sure. Let me know when you want me to start.
At your own
Oh,
pace.
okay,
Anytime.
you're recording. Okay.
Yep.
The circumstances are a little bit different because when we saved the musical, the reason they were going to close the music hall was because they were losing money. And they were doing it on purpose because the Rockefellers really wanted that fabulous building to be destroyed. They wanted the space. They wanted to build either a hotel or an office building or something there. It was all about the real estate. It had nothing to do with theater or the romance of theater or any of that. So Bill and I were working there at the time, and when they made the announcement, I just thought, I got mad. I got upset, and then I just got furious because I absolutely love that theater, and I had worked there for 12 years. Bill and I had worked there together for 5 years. And when we worked there, I don't know if you even know this, but the music hall used to run movies and stage shows. It wasn't like it is now. And so the films were the things that got people to buy the tickets. It wasn't the show, except at Easter time and Christmas time, because they did the Christmas pageant and all this stuff. And in the music hall's heyday, right up through the beginning of the 70s, they always got the best films. And they had a reputation that if a movie played the music hall, it was instantly a hit. It was that kind of thing. And it was like that for years. And then in the middle of the 70s, the films started to get a little strange. And then they got downright bad. I mean, they were so bad, we couldn't believe it. And even in my book, when I talk about how bad the films were, my publisher said, you have to put some of the quotes of the reviews in the book or they're going to think it's your opinion.
Right.
He's right. And I did. We found the reviews and we put them in. But we knew that there were other good movies, blockbuster movies opening all over New York City, but they weren't being booked at the hall. So that all felt very suspicious to us. And so when the announcement happened, we were all shocked, but intellectually we knew they were sort of heading to this direction. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So they made the announcement during the last week of the Christmas show. It was in January. And they said they were going to close it, right after the Easter show. So they were going to close it on April 12th. So in those days, because they weren't doing so well, they would run the Christmas show, then they would close it for a month or so, and then they would open it again for the Easter show. So I was dance captain of the ballet. Bill was captain of the singers. And that morning after the announcement was made in the big rehearsal hall up on the 8th floor, and all the press was there and flash bulbs and TV cameras and all that stuff. And we went back down. I had a little ballet office that I was able to use for payroll and scheduling and stuff. And we went down there because it was too early to get into makeup and stuff for the show. And I kept saying to Bill, we have to do something. We have to do something. Well, I didn't know. I didn't have a clue what to do. I'd never done anything like that. And the office and the dressing rooms were on the 50th Street side of the building. And right across from the 50th Street stage door is NBC. Right. In the North Sayville. And I kept staring at the telephone in that little office. And I said to Bill, you know what? I'm going to call NBC. I didn't know what I was going to say to them, but I was going to call NBC. And so I did. And that phone call led to another phone call. And within an hour, I was connected to a local TV show. It was called the Bill Boggs Show. And they said, can you be on the show tomorrow?
Wow.
I said, I have to go get permission, bring Rockettes, bring singers, bring whatever. So Bill and I went across we were still doing the Christmas show. We got into our nativity costumes. I will never forget that. And we went over to the vice president's office. His office was on 51st Street in the costume.
In costumes.
Yeah, because we only had like 5 minutes before the nativity was going to start, which was the overture of the show in those days. They did it in the beginning, not the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was better in the beginning.
No time to waste.
So we go into his office, and he was very pompous kind of guy. Had a big leather chair, one of those. And I said, he said, "What can I do for you?" A very deep voice, very deep voice. And I said, I thought to myself, I look like an idiot in this costume, and I have to be serious. So I put my fist on his desk, just stood there. Because he
like
said,
any
"Sit
shepherd
down."
would.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
No, like a shepherd. Were you a
Oh,
shepherd?
like a shepherd would.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Just like
He said, "Why don't you both sit down?" And neither one of us would sit because we wanted to, look strong and all that. So I put my fist down on his desk and I said, we want to save the music hall. And he kind of shot back in his chair. He said, "What?" And he started to laugh.
Really?
And yeah. And I made my fist a little stronger just for me, not for him. And I said, "Don't laugh. I'm supposed to be on the Bill Boggs show tomorrow morning. Do I have your permission?" And he just looked at me. And I said, "And they want a couple of Rockettes, and they want a singer, or they want whatever they wanted." And I got very stern. I mean, this guy really was my boss. I don't. And he said, "Do whatever you want to do." We said, "Thanks." And we walked out, and Bill and I hugged each other, and we flew down the steps to the stage. And that's how it started. And the show was stupid, but when we came back from we had to come back to do the show, the Christmas show. And when we came back from the TV show,
right, the Boggs show.
Yeah, I think we did that at 9:00 in the morning. I said to Bill, "We have to do something right now. We can't wait."
Yeah.
And so we called a meeting of all the employees on both stage doors. There was a stage door on 50th Street and a stage door on 55th Street. And there was a great big blackboard. And they would write the times for the show, what time you had to be back. Or if there was any messages like, dress rehearsal tomorrow morning or any of that stuff.
Right.
So we got permission from the stage manager to put a message on those boards. And we wrote it down on a piece of paper. And Bill went to one and I went to the other one. And with chalk, we wrote, a meeting about saving the musical after the first show in the large rehearsal hall. And we got out of our costumes and got up there first. And literally, this is what happened. We were reading an article about it in the New York Times. And it was a big rehearsal hall with a mirror and a ballet bar that went across the mirror. And Bill and I were leaning on the mirror reading the newspaper. And the door was behind us to get into the room. And the door opened. It had a distinctive squeak. And it opened. And I turned around. And the first two people to walk through there, it was not a Rockette or a ballet dancer or a singer. It was a musician and a stagehand. Two of the strongest unions in the business. And I turned to Bill and I said, "This is serious." And literally within 15 minutes, there were about 200 people staring at me. And I don't really remember the speech that I gave them, but I do remember how I started it. I looked up at all these people who looked desperate, just desperate in their eyes. And I said, "We have nothing to lose if we fight to save this building. We're going to be out of here on April 12th. So what are we just sitting here for? Let's do it." And that's how it started. That's literally how it started. I mean, my speech went on longer than that, and I don't remember what I said. And the very next day, a committee was formed. We took volunteers from each department. And we had a meeting, and the committee elected me the president of the committee. We called ourselves the Show People's Committee to Save Radio City Music Hall, which was a long title, but that's what they came up with. And then it started. It just started. And, you know, when you never done anything like this, you learn as you go along.
Sure.
It starts as a little tiny snowball, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And luckily, we had some fabulous people who came into our lives that helped us and taught us what to do, publicity-wise, landmarking-wise. They were just wonderful. Celebrities helped us. We had a lot of help. I didn't do this by myself. But it was such a big deal, Philip, that there's a Hilton Hotel almost across the street from the musical. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
6th Avenue and 53rd. The Hilton Hotel, they didn't want it to close either because, you know, it promoted business.
Sure.
They gave us a ground floor office for 3 months. For those 3 months we were out of the theater for free.
Wow.
Totally free. And that included long distance because in those days there was long distance. And so every single day for 3 months, every single day, Bill and I went in there. Other committee members did too, but we were definitely there every single day. Wow. And good things happened, bad things happened, funny things happened, strange things happened. But it was landmarked on the landmark hearing was April 14th. And 2 weeks later, it was a city landmark. And once it was a city landmark, nobody could touch it for a year. And then we had it made a national historic landmark, and then it was saved forever. But all the stuff that we did within the 3 months, we did a lot of television, we did a lot of radio. A man by the name of Art Athens came up to Bill and me when we were still up in the rehearsal hall when they made the announcement. And he came over to us, introduced himself. He said, "My name is Art Athens. I'm with," and I recognize his voice. I didn't know his name, but the voice. He said, "I'm with CBS Radio." He said, "You both look upset." We told him, you know, who we were and what departments we were in charge of. And he said, "I want to tell you something. When I was a kid, a young man, I was an usher here. I love this theater." Gave us his card. He said, "There's anything I can do, call me." And we did. And he helped us tremendously. I'll tell you something you might be able to use that we learned from Art Athens. He said, if you're going to do any publicity stunts, do them on Sunday or Monday because they're usually slow news days. Interesting, huh?
Oh yeah, you would kind of pick up and maybe a front runner.
And so we did, because the very first one we did it with Cheetah Rivera in front of the theater, and we didn't get a lot of press to come. And we were bemoaning this, and that's when Art said, "You did it on the wrong day. Don't do it on those days." And boy, was he right. He was right. Everything we did on a Sunday or Monday was huge, huge. A gentleman by the name of Dr. Joseph Rosenberg wrote us a letter. We had a poster made. One of the musicians' wives was an illustrator, and she did a really snappy poster. And we collected money from everybody and printed it and put it all over the city. And this man was walking through I don't know where he saw it, but I don't remember. And so he wrote us a letter because we didn't have a phone number when we made the poster. And I'm reading his letter, and it said that he was involved in helping to save Grand Central. Oh my God, we have to talk to this guy. And the committee said, "Yes, Rosie, you have to talk to him." And
so Grand Central Station was...
oh yeah, that was going to be torn down.
You're kidding me.
No, it was saved right before the musical.
No kidding.
That gorgeous thing was going to be torn down.
I can't even imagine.
They were going to tear down Carnegie Hall.
Okay.
So Carnegie Hall was saved, then Grand Central, and then Radio City Music Hall. Isaac Stern led the fight to save Grand Central. Carnegie Hall. Jackie Onassis led the fight to save
Grand
Central, and Rosie Novelino-Mearns led the fight to save the music hall.
Well, I mean, I know we just did Natalie Portman just did a movie about Jackie Onassis, right? So, I mean, I got to ask you, Rose, like, where did this passion for theater, like, really come from?
Passion for theater in general?
like from you, like what's your
or the
connection to
musical.
it?
Any, well, I, as a a little girl, I was sent to ballet school. Nino went to art class and I went to ballet school. And I was really, honestly, I was a tomboy. I loved climbing trees and playing baseball. And I think my mother thought if I went to ballet school, I'd become a lady or whatever. And I hated it. I absolutely despised it.
Oh
And then
no.
she switched to, when I was, I don't know, wait a minute, I think second grade. What is that, 7?
Give or take.
Yeah, she switched me to a different teacher. And her name was Irene Vauquin, and she's part of the very famous Vauquin ballet family. Her uncle was Mikhail Vauquin, who was a world-renowned choreographer. He's in every ballet book. And she was a serious teacher. She was scary.
Right.
And when around 11 years old, all of a sudden I thought, I think I like this.
Right.
I think I like this. And then I started taking it seriously. And then my parents got nervous because Nino wanted to be an artist and I wanted to be a ballet dancer. I thought, oh my God, these kids are going into show business. Oh my God, this is horrible. And Nino and I were like best friends, and we would, he was going to an art school right around the corner from my ballet studio. And on Saturdays we'd meet and we'd go to this very pretty duck pond in this town. This is the town next to where we grew up. And we just walk around it and go, oh, Mother and Daddy don't understand us, and we kind of bonded about all of that. And by the time I was a young teenager, I was hooked. I was going to be a dancer come hell or high water. And Nino was determined to be an artist. And that's what we did. And in those days, I wanted to be a ballet dancer. Mm-hmm. And Radio City had a ballet company, a permanent ballet company. And that teacher, Vauquin, used to make us go into New York and audition. Yeah, the music hall used to audition every single Wednesday afternoon, whether they needed people or not. Yeah. And so she said, and she would pick us, once we got to be well into high school, almost seniors, juniors, you're going in and you're all so you learn how to audition. Mm-hmm. I was scared as hell the first time I did it. I thought,
right.
And that was a wonderful opportunity because you learned how to present yourself, what to do. You saw what other people did. You saw who got it, who didn't get it. So, I really wanted to work at the music hall, and I did. And I ended up working there 12 years. So I knew every inch of the building. I loved that building. Mm-hmm. I really loved it. And when Bill and I worked there and the movie was going on, if you didn't have a rehearsal, you were free. And so you had 4 shows a day. You had 3 breaks. The first break was usually rehearsal. Second break was dinner break. And third break, you did whatever you wanted to do. And I would wander. I'd go all the way up to the 8th floor and I'd go into hallways where I wasn't supposed to. And I remember one time I opened this door. I was all by myself. I opened this door and I went, oh, you've been in the music hall?
Oh, I've been there. I even booked a tour to actually go behind the scenes and mingle with the Rockettes. I didn't get to do it because that part of the show had already closed, but I've never gotten past the curtain.
Okay, but you've been in the auditorium, so you know that beautiful sunburst ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I opened this door, and it was the top of that ceiling. That ceiling suspended.
You were able to look.
I was on top of the ceiling. The ceiling is suspended from above.
Right.
And it's all black, and that's where the guys would go in to go to Deco, which is a lighting thing in the middle of that ceiling.
Okay.
And I thought, oh my God, I didn't even know that was up. I didn't know that where that door was going to lead me. And I just remember standing there going, oh my God, this is so cool. It was reversed, of course.
Yeah.
And what you see underneath. So
that's one shot in Home Alone where Kevin McAllister in Lost in New York, he actually is actually watching the orchestra from one of the lighting booths all the way into the ceiling.
Yeah, right.
I could just imagine that was very close to what you saw.
Yeah, and also the projection rooms. That's also very high. That's above the 3rd mezzanine, the projection rooms. And there's also another lighting room up there too, above that.
Right.
But So that kind of stuff, that's what I love to do. I love to find things that I wasn't supposed to know about, or it had nothing to do with me, but it
Right.
did in my heart. It had a lot to do with me, you know. And the theater does so much stuff. The special effects that are built into that theater are mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. There's a rain curtain, there's a steam curtain, there's a turntable. The stage is divided into 3 elevators. Each one can go up and down one at a time or all the time. It can go up and down, and the turntable can turn. The orchestra goes up and down, and it's all done with hydraulic lifts like an aircraft carrier.
Right.
And during World War II, this is how ridiculous people are. They thought because it was designed like an aircraft carrier, they guarded it because they thought the Japanese spies were going to come in and figure out how to do it. And they actually had guards during World War II downstairs guarding that. Isn't that bizarre?
I mean, I can't even imagine like what we're doing now, like post 9/11 America, the level of security, even in those times.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot imagine.
Yeah.
Can't take anything for granted.
No. But it's a really fabulous theater. It's just, and the thought of them even thinking about tearing that down was ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. So we led a fight, and it got saved, and it was truly the 11th hour. It was 10 minutes to midnight on April 12th when it was saved. So we never worked there again. We were blackballed. We were blackballed by the Rockefellers.
Because you were the face of it.
Yeah. I didn't believe that. I had my suspicions, but it took about 6 months to find out, and we found out how, that we were blackballed. And they really went through some trouble to hide it, which is bizarre to me. Part of me was naive because I kept thinking, they don't know who I am. And when I was writing the book, I thought they didn't know who I was. I was on every TV show in New York. I flew out to California and did the Tom Snyder show. They didn't know who you were. But you see, my ego wasn't into it. It wasn't, oh, wow, Rosie's on television. It wasn't that. It was, we got to save this building. We got to save this building. I was obsessed with it. I was determined. That's a better word. Yeah. I was determined. I was determined that they weren't going to get away with this. And it was truly a David and Goliath fight.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. The little people won. And the Rockefellers were shocked. They never thought this was going to happen. They thought we were going to, put our tail between our legs and cry some tears and go away. And we did.
So it really came down now to the city saying this is a city landmark to actually put a stop to it? Yes.
We needed political help because we were fighting politicians. We were fighting the Rockefellers. At the time, the governor was Hugh Carey. I don't think you would know who he is. You're too young. But his lieutenant governor was Marianne Krupsack. And Carey's, time was just about up. He had already been governor for 2 terms. And she wanted to run for governor. So she started to pay attention to us after she saw us on a few TV shows. And She contacted us. And she wanted to help us. And I'm not going to say no.
Of course not.
Yeah. And we needed a politician on our side. I knew why she was doing it. But we needed her too. She needed us. So, whatever. So she did all the nitty gritty stuff with getting the books, finding out all the dirty stuff that was going on. I mean, they were cooking the books. They were absolutely cooking the books because they were going to fight the landmarking. And she said, show me your books. And they had to. And she saw in the books that they were charging for the billing, how much money they were putting out. One of the things was air conditioning for the theater. But on their books, they had put the air conditioning for all of Rockefeller Center not just Radio City Music Hall. So they're cooking the books. They're making it look bigger. Sound familiar? Making the amount of money look bigger than it really is. So instead of spending $100,000 on air conditioning, they were spending $1 million on air. You know what I mean? That was just one
As
of
a
the
corporate
things.
entity.
Yes.
I see.
They were also putting in bad movies on purpose.
Okay.
We had suspicions of that, but this is all in the book. But one night, third break time, I was up in the dressing room and the stage manager called me on the house phone. And he said, Rosie, there's a phone call for you down here on stage. Now, we never got phone calls down there. There were pay phones in the dressing room in the hallway, you know. I said, what? He said, it's a guy from Warner Brothers. He wants to talk to you.
Oh, are you?
And I was,
Jaw
me?
dropper.
Yeah, but what I said to Frank Hawkins, he was our head stage manager, and he wasn't mad that somebody called me. And I just said, he wants to talk to me? And he goes, yeah. So I threw on a rope and I went flying down there. And I remember going across the stage. I could hear the movie playing. And I said to Frank, who's on the phone? You know, it was kind of whispering. And he said, it's a guy from Warner Brothers. And so I took the phone. It was very sweet of Frank to let me do this. He knew what we were doing and he wanted to help us, but he was management, so he had to act like he, you know. And I went, hello. And this guy said, my name is Mark Martin. And he said, before we start, I just want you to know that when I was younger, I was one of the male dancers in the ballet company at the music hall. And I went, get out of here. And so I completely relaxed. And what he told me, oops, my microphone just fell. What he told me was, he said, I work for Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers wants to be the company, the movie company that saves the music hall. And I said, huh? He said, they want to put Superman in there. That was the new Superman, the first one. And he said, and so they contacted the music hall, and the music hall said, no. And my jaw dropped. And I said, what did you say? And he continued, and I said, Mark, can you call me at my apartment tonight when I get home? I want to talk further about this. Like, I didn't want to hold up that phone. I wasn't allowed to be on that phone. So I gave him my phone number. I remember walking across that stage thinking, oh my God, everything changed. Everything changed. Everything got dark and dirty. And I went up to Bill's dressing room. I said, I got to talk to you. Come here. And he came out and I told him. And we were like, oh my God, this is like really ugly now. And it got all of a sudden much bigger. And Bill came home with me that night because we want to both talk to Mark. And Mark called, bless his heart. And he said they don't want to do it. They told Warner Brothers, don't come anywhere near here with that movie, because they knew they would make money on it, and they didn't want to make money. We stayed friends with Mark Martin all these years. He just passed away a couple of months ago.
Oh no.
Yeah, but he's in the book. He's in the book. So that's the kind of stuff we found out.
So was there ever another company that helped save Radio City Music Hall that just happened not to be the Warner Brothers studio?
No, not like that. Not during that period. Once it was saved, I think they had one more movie after I was out of there, and then they closed it and they changed the format. And Disney brought in, thank you, Bob Yanni. Bob Yanni used to produce shows for Disney, and they did Snow White or something there, a musical. I mean, a live show, not the movie. And Bob Yanni did that, and he did a couple other shows, but there were no movies anymore. And then after Bob Yanni, they closed it again and redid it and revamped it, and it, eventually it turned into what it is now, which is a house for. They use it for concerts. They do the Christmas show every year, but the rest of the time is concerts, or they do the Tony Awards there. It makes a lot of money now. They're very successful. They refurbished it, and when they refurbished it, several years ago, they had to get, because of the landmarking, because of us, they had to get the same carpet,
Ah,
the
clean
same
it.
wall cover, everything. You can't change any of that. It's
That's
against
it.
the rules.
You could clean it, refurbish it, but you have to reinstall it. It's got to
Right.
go
Has
back
to
to
be
the original.
exactly the same. And
Got
that's a wonderful feeling. That's a wonderful feeling to know that we did that.
you preserved it. That's
Yeah,
it.
we did. And it took me a long time to go back in there. Bill too. I couldn't go in for a long time because I was so hurt and angry, and
Can't,
all those emotions we went through after that. Just every negative emotion you can think of, we went through. And that's also why it took me so long to write the book, because Nino and the rest of my family kept saying, write this book, you're a good writer, write this story. You know, every time we get together for Easter or Christmas, and my mother and father, write, leave me alone, I don't want to write it, because I was mad.
you're still a
And
little mad about it, or like,
huh?
do you still feel a little angry, but there's gratification from the whole experience?
Now there is, from the book, there is.
Does it make you
And,
feel like you
and
got?
and as I told you, these other films that are happening. Excuse me, Bill, would you mind bringing me that water? So now, yeah, now I'm getting a little bit of gratification. One of the things, thank you very much. One of the things that honestly hurt me very, very much was that out of 400 employees, 5 people said thank you. And that's all.
Wow.
That hurt. And people that went on to work there for another 25 years. And nobody picked up the phone. Nobody wanted to know what happened to us, except for those 5 people. But so that was painful. That was annoying.
We're one of
But I
those
feel
5
better
people.
about it now. You know, time does heal everything.
Yeah, it lets the dust settle, no doubt.
Yeah.
What about those 2 heads, the stagehand and the music head of the unions? Did they express their gratitude?
Those 2 particular people did not, but the musical director, Will Irwin, was one of them that thanked me. The head conductor, a couple of very good friends thanked me. A couple of people from the committee thanked me, and that was it. One Rockette, she was on the committee. She was wonderful. A guy from the costume department who was on the committee, the musical director, and another friend, a very good friend of mine who was one of the dancers, a male friend, thanked me. That was it. I can name them all. And we went to the union. We went to our union because the union for the musical is AGVA. It's not an equity house. And Art Athens said, why don't you go to your union? So we went. And I remember going up there, and the guy who sort of ran that office was there behind a reception desk. We didn't get any further. And I told him, and I said, I think we're blackballed. And he turned to me and he said, that's bullshit. I said, excuse me? That's what AGVA did for me.
Did you work after that?
Not at the music hall. I went on tour with Michael Bennett's Ballroom. It's a Broadway show.
Oh.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And then by then I was 33. A dancer's life pretty much ends around 35, 36, unless you're a superstar. And I went on tour with Ballroom, and Bill got a job as a soloist singer on the Mississippi Queen, the paddle boat. Up and down.
Mississippi Queen?
Yeah, Bill was on that, yeah.
No kidding.
And that was something he's always wanted to do. And I went on, we saw Ballroom. I said to Bill, oh my God, I want to do this show. As a dancer, it was just wonderful. And so we both ended on a high note for us. And it was after that where, you know, we got married after that. So I was 34 when I got married. And I said to Bill, I just don't think I want to dance anymore, which is really hard for a dancer to say. You're not supposed to do that. You know, it's like against the rules. And I didn't have a great passion for acting. I did a little bit of it, but I didn't care about it. And that's when Bill and I started writing musicals, because Bill is a singer and a fabulous musician. And it started as a fun thing, and then it turned into something a little bit more serious. And so we started doing that. And that's sort of where our passions went to until the book started to emerge.
How long did it take you to write?
What, the book?
Yeah.
It took about 5 years, only because we had a survival job, because we had to pay the rent. And the survival job we had when that was going on was we worked here in New York, but for all the cruise ships. It was probably the worst job we've ever had, because it was 24/7. We started part-time, just checking people in, and then they offered us supervisor jobs, which we took because it was more money. And then the next year they asked us to be permanent members. And there were only, I think there were only 6 or 7 permanent employees at that time. There were like 200 part-time people. But when she offered us the full-time job, she said it comes with health care. And we went out for dinner with a calculator and figured out how much money we would save, because we were paying our own health care. So we sold our soul for health care. And we took the job. And it was 24/7, and it was extremely demanding. And you were dealing with passports and visas and passengers who missed the ship and all this, and training people. It was horrible. We were good at it, but we didn't like it. And during this period, we worked for them for like 12 years. One day I was home, I guess it was my day off, and I opened the newspaper, and it said that Alton Marshall, he was the guy who ran Radio City Music Hall. When we were there, he died. And I said to Bill, look who's dead. Ding dong, the witch is dead. I hated that man. And there was something happened after he died. I don't know if I was afraid of him. I don't think I was. But something was released.
Sure.
And that's when I started writing the book. So I wrote the book if I had a day off, which wasn't very often, or at night. And I kept working on it. And I was halfway through the book. I was up to the point where they made the announcement. So now I had to really make sure all my research was perfect and the dates were perfect. And we were talking about quitting this job. And we were on vacation on Cape Cod. And we said, when we get back, let's quit. We're done. We can't do it anymore. And I was already 66 and Bill was about to turn 65. So I could go on, the Medicare, and he could do Medicare. And so our health care would be taken care of. And we came back from that vacation, and we got an email to go to some meeting. Once again, they didn't tell us what the meeting was about. And we walked in, and our immediate boss was there, and this person from Miami was there. Mm-hmm. And we said, what's up? And they said, the New York office is losing money. We are downsizing, and you are the first 2 to go. They handed us an envelope. They asked for the keys and our phones. They said, you can collect unemployment because you're not being let go for anything negative. There's a package in the envelope. Go home and see if you approve of it. And do you have any questions? This is how long this meeting took after 15 years. And Bill said, I have one question. When does this take effect? And they said immediately. And without even looking at each other, we both just stood up like it was choreographed, and we walked out. And we were livid. I mean, we were going to quit anyway, but the way they did it was so obnoxious. And we gave blood for them. And so we went out for lunch, and then we went and sat in Central Park. And I remember saying to Bill, you know what? Maybe this is a blessing.
Of course.
Yeah, because we wanted to quit. If we quit, we wouldn't have gotten unemployment or the package, the severance package. Sure. And I said, why don't we do this? On Monday, this was like Friday or Thursday, take the weekend off. On Monday, why don't we get up? Since we're going to get unemployment, let them pay for it. I'm going to finish the book, And he wanted to redo the orchestrations for our musical Ebenezer. I said, you've been talking about that for months. I said, well, get up, you go to your computer, I'll go to mine. I'm going to finish the book. You finish Ebenezer, the orchestrations, and they will pay for it. And we shook hands. We literally shook hands like two business partners. And that's what we did.
Deal.
And soon as he finished the orchestrations, we got a call from Surflight Theater, and they said they wanted to do it. Ebenezer, and the producer said, but you know what? We need tracks because we can't afford an orchestra.
Okay.
And Bill and I just looked at each other, and Bill said, Steve, I just finished doing the tracks. It was like, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And then a friend of mine that had studied dance with me, with Irene Vokeen, said, I'm coming into the city. Can we meet for dinner? And he was bringing Vokeen's daughter with him because they were doing something at the library at Lincoln Center. And I said, yeah, ironically, Bill and I are going to the Philharmonic Hall that night to hear the concert. He said, can you mind if we go with you? I said, I don't care, get tickets. You won't be sitting with us, but yeah. So we met them for dinner. And somewhere in the middle of dinner, Andy asked me about my book, the book. I said, how do you know about the book? How do you know I'm working on a book?
Right.
And he said, somebody told me. I don't know who told. And I said, well, that's funny because it's pretty much done. And just that day, I had gotten a response. I was starting to, email publishers around the country. And I had gotten this response from a woman, publisher. She said, I don't know if I can sell your book. She said, but it sounds really interesting. She said, when I live in Massachusetts now, but when I was a young girl, I lived in that area. And going to Radio City was always a special occasion. And that's when you wore your black patent leather shoes. And I said to Bill, this woman is my age, because my parents took us into Radio City and I wore my black patent leather shoes, like Easter or something like that. And she said, so send me a manuscript or whatever and give me 6 weeks. So I'm telling them this story at dinner, and I said, flippantly, so I'll give her 7 weeks. And then Andy, this guy, said to me, and then you'll give it to me. I said, what? And he said, I didn't want to say anything, but I'm starting a publishing company.
Gee,
said,
okay. So
come, please. And I said, Andy, you haven't read one word. Don't tell me you want to do the book.
right.
I said, you've never read a word I wrote. He said, I read your short stories online. You're a good writer. I said, a short story is not a book. Don't just say you're going to do this because we've known each other all. And I'm like yelling at him.
Of course.
And Donna, Vokeen's daughter, said, oh, would you please let him see it? He's been talking about it all day long. He's driving me crazy. And I said, what are you, his agent? I mean, right. And then we all just started to laugh. So we go into Philharmonic Hall, and I don't know where they were sitting, but Bill and I were not sitting with them. And I said to Bill, what do you think I should do? And he said, I would give it to him if I were you. You know him. He knows you. It's someone you can trust. What do you got to lose? Give it to him.
Right.
I did. And he published it. So that's bizarre, isn't it?
No, it's not bizarre at all. It's not.
No, it is. That, Bill did the tracks for Ebenezer, and then somebody wanted to do it. We weren't seeking that out. They contacted us.
No, you were prepared for it. You were ready for the opportunity upon which it came. It's not bizarre. It's not. It's quite common.
Well, it was a nice thing that happened. It was and the ball has just been rolling ever since. And we have been on just a great ride with the book, a great, great ride.
And then you got a documentary about it in the works?
Well, I'm part of a documentary about movie palaces called Going Attractions, The Definitive Story of the Movie Palace. And I'm really proud to be part of that because that's really good. And then Nancy Gershwin, who's part of the Gershwin family, is working on a documentary just about us. And the woman who did the Movie Palace doc wants to do a feature film on our story. So
that's the rights to the book and create a period piece.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Yeah. Who knows if that's going to happen? But it's very exciting. Very exciting if that happens.
If you were to cast yourself, like if you could, like the younger you, like you're in the prime of the 30s. It's not even woman empowerment, but it's just like, who's the leading lady? Like, who could actually fill in those dancing shoes?
I don't know. I have no idea because I'm not up on the younger stars of the day. You know, I don't know.
I can't imagine somebody filling in those shoes, honestly. And
I don't
I
know.
know
She's going to have to be able to dance as well as act and look something like this, you know. But I don't know. I'll leave that up to them. But it would certainly will be exciting if that time ever comes. You know, really exciting.
I really like the journey, the hero's journey, the way you explain the story on how he even had some really good hope when Warner Brothers was going to come in, but that got taken out. It's like that one good victorious final nail on the coffin was like right there, but it was stripped from you. Like the story is definitely there.
Yeah. That's what everybody says. Everybody who reads the book says this reads like a movie script. And I said, well, okay,
Perfect.
that's fine. Yeah, that's a nice review.
No, movies are, and especially with streaming right now, like visual, that's the language of today of storytelling. Like that's how we could really relate to characters, especially if it's based on a true story.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
But during your time, were there any theaters that did close and they just didn't quite make it? They did shut down indefinitely?
Yeah, I think I told you a little bit of this on the phone when we chatted the other day. They were at the same time. It was right. We had just finished or been kicked out, whichever way you want to look at it. And they were going to build the Marriott Marquis on Broadway and 45th, 46th Street. And there were, I think, 6. I'd have to check that. Don't hold me to that number. Broadway theaters on those 2 blocks. And they were going to tear them down because they wanted to build that monster hotel. And the Broadway community was slow on the pickup. And somebody contacted me. I don't know. I really don't remember who it was. It doesn't matter. But they wanted us to come and, you know, help them. And Bill and I went to one meeting and we said to them, you waited too long. We're not going to help you because we're done. Once you go through one of these, you don't want to do it anymore. It is, it sucks the blood and everything out of you. And after what happened to us, we were done. I didn't mind giving them opinions or, you know, helping them like Art Athens and Joe Rosenberg helped us with how do you do this and how do you do that. I'll be glad to pass that on. But they waited way too late. I mean, the equipment was already sitting in front of on Broadway, you know, the wrecking balls and all that. It was already there. They were already digging up part of the street. Mm-hmm. And we said, what did you wait so long for? You know, you should have gone on this. And of course, it's different. We were part of the music hall. It was our home.
Sure.
Right. All those people are in this theater for a certain amount of time in that theater. I mean, they're all the Broadway community. Yes. All those theaters is everybody's home. So it was you know, the intimacy of it was a little bit different, but we told them what we could tell them. But I remember Liv Ullmann, that's who it is. I couldn't remember when I told you the other day. I don't remember what show she was in. She was on Broadway, and a straight play, wasn't a musical, and she was leading the fight to save the theaters. And I believe it was the Schuberts. It was the Schuberts that said to her, threatened her, if you continue this fight, you will never work in this town again.
No.
So they were just as nasty as the Rockafellers because they owned some of those theaters.
Yeah, they
wanted them down too, just like the Rockafellers did. You know, the Marriott Marquis built a big theater inside the hotel. That was the deal. So they replaced 6 with one big one. It's not the same. It's ugly. But those other theaters they tore down were, you know, pretty. They were beautiful. They were period and all that kind of stuff. And nobody cares about that. They just want to build bigger and better and modern. And that just drives me nuts. That absolutely drives me nuts. Yeah. So I don't, I did she back down, Bill? Or it was just too late anyway? She backed down immediately. And, you know, it was way too late anyway. And I'm sure I know they got equity involved, and, you know, all the equity people went out and started screaming and yelling. But we started the day after the announcement. And we had that 3-month period from January 8th, that's when it was announced, to April 12th. So we knew how much time we had.
Right.
I don't know if they knew how much time they had or how long it took them to get involved. We were right there. It was going to affect us immediately, you know, so it was slightly different, but that is sad that all those theaters are gone.
Were they big houses?
Oh, they were regular Broadway houses, yeah. So what do most Broadway houses hold?
About
Between
600
1,500. Well, no, they're more than 600. They're
minimum.
like 1,500 and up.
So they lost 80% capacity. You lose 80% of your workforce. You lose 80% of new content shows just from this one.
Yes. But now also what was going on in New York City then was bad. Mayor Koch was the mayor.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah.
And the city was filthy.
Yep.
It was unsafe. Businesses were leaving. There were streets in New York that I wouldn't walk down. And I was a fierce young New Yorker. Nothing made me scared. I wouldn't go down 42nd Street between Broadway and 8th. I wouldn't do it. If I was going to Port Authority to take the bus home to Glen Rock where my parents lived, I would go down 43rd Street or 39th Street or something. I would never walk down that block that's so beautiful now. I wouldn't even walk. It was all drug dealers and hookers, and it was horrible, horrible. I didn't walk down that street for 25 years.
No shit.
Yeah, so it was really bad, which was also affecting the music hall because not as many people were coming in, you know. And it got bad press too, like it is now. You know, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in New York now because of the COVID, and all you hear about is, you know, 3 people got shot last night and 6 people got shot, and that's all you're hearing now is the bad stuff.
Right.
And I know my friends who don't live here are, you know, emailing me all the time or texting me saying, oh God, well, hope you and Bill are okay. I said, no, it's okay. It's okay. The press is blowing it out of it. It's happening, but it's not happening under my window. Okay. But that's the way it was then too. And when you see newsreels, Bill will get that. When you see newsreels about that period of time, the city was a mess. It was a mess. The subway was dirty. It was a mess. Everything was a mess.
Right.
Horrible. You know, so that was part of the problem too. And so Broadway houses were not as filled. There were a lot of empty houses.
Right.
There was that period of time when now they don't even have enough Broadway houses to put the shows in. But there was a period when there were a lot of empty houses. So in theory, people would think, well, what do you need all these? Tear them down, build a hotel. We'll get all these tourists to come into this hotel. So that was the intellectual thinking of why they were going to do that. But if you're a romanticist and you love old theaters and you don't want them harmed, you know, you get upset about that kind of stuff.
Well, what's so important about theater?
That's a good question. For me, theater is magic. And it's whether it's a legit theater, a movie theater, or an opera house. When you go into one of these buildings, especially when they're beautiful, for whatever you're going to see, when the lights go out and the curtain goes up, voila. And if you lose that, you lose heart. I think everybody benefits from theater. And when I say theater, I mean everything. I mean theater and ballet and opera and the circus and, anything that's a performing venture. You learn something from every single, even if the show is bad, you learn from it. But when it's good, when it's really good, there's nothing like it. Nothing makes my heart skip a beat as seeing a great Broadway show with beautiful music and fabulous actors with gorgeous voices, or especially going to the ballet. If it's something really good and there's a spectacular dancer and it's done perfectly, wow, that's magic. It's magic. So, it's culture. You don't want to lose that. You don't want to lose art. You don't want to lose books. You don't want to lose music. And everybody has different tastes. You don't have to love the ballet. You can like rock and roll music. I don't care. But if it's something you love, it's going to make you feel good. It's going to make you smile. It's going to make you cry. It's going to change the way you think, maybe. It may open up another part of your brain that you're going to go, wow, I never thought of that before. And that's something that art can do. Let's call it art, okay? That covers theater and everything. It's very important. And I think the soul dies without it. Honest to God. That sounds very dramatic, but I really feel that way. I really do. Whether I'm involved in it or not has nothing to do with it. I've always loved it ever since I was a kid. And my parents made it available to us. And I love showing it to other people for the first time, telling somebody about a ballet or taking them to the ballet that didn't know about this specific story or something. It's very exciting, especially when they like it. It's like, I don't like ballet. I said, have you ever seen a ballet? Have you ever seen Swan Lake? No. Well, then how can you tell me you didn't like? Come with me.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what I think it is.
I've seen the movie Swan Lake.
You've seen the movie Swan Lake?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's all right.
Yeah, I saw that when I was 13, I think. I got this whole story kind of filled me in a little bit on the little passion of being a performer, because I started out as a singer in the chorus in like elementary school, intermediate school. I made the elite team. Only you had to audition to get in. Was your voice in tune? I can't read music, but I tried going into the band. I could not do it. Like I was not good at going with the time and doing it with so many people. I've always been sort of like my own performer in a sense. And then when acting came along, and of course your brother, when Nino, he would see me perform and we would talk about it, and then just the friendship we developed in the last 10 years now, just like theater brought us together, and I don't know where my place in the community really lies, but I feel very responsible when it comes to keeping traditions alive, never forgetting the foundation upon which the stone was set, and giving proper credit to it. That's always where I felt compelled, where I fit the most.
Well, that's great. I mean, you found this place where you think you fit, or you're comfortable fitting there, or you want to. You're passionate about it, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to be passionate about it. You shouldn't go into the theater unless you're passionate, because it's too heartbreaking and it's too much work. It's a lot of work, no matter what you do, which aspect of it you're in. If you take it seriously, and you have to take it seriously. If you're going to do it, you have to do it right. It's a lot of work, and there's also a lot of heartbreak too. You don't always get every job you want. And you have to be able to let that roll off. It's not like you decide to become an engineer and you go to college and then you get a job and you do your craft. It's not like that in the theater. So you have to have heart, you have to have thick skin too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you just have to. So, stay at it. You'll find the spot.
I think I'm getting pretty damn close.
Good.
And it's definitely finding me slowly but surely. And I'm actually really starting to enjoy it once again,
Good.
To that point. Yeah. Yeah. You got to let it just roll off your shoulders a little bit and don't
Absolutely.
take it all with a grain of salt, and just patient,
Right.
and be tenacious at the same time.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely have to be that.
Jeez,
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how great a conversation this was. Just like how to wrap it up. It's like you covered so many fine details, and it's just like if we were to compare sort of like not the success of saving Radio City, but would you know if there's like we know that theater and some shows are shutting down for good right now, but potentially not the house itself. Like maybe a show will come back, but is there any like is there any like uh is there anything like maybe that that we have to do in order to keep things alive that maybe we're not seeing right now in order to preserve, protect, and provide the
You
shows
know,
for the next generation?
um, I think it's going to come back. I absolutely think it's going to come back. The last thing that's going to open in New York is theater. Is movie theaters will probably open before live
Sure.
theater, but
Sure.
that's going to be the absolute last thing, because not only do you have to separate the audience, what
Hmm.
about the people working backstage, on stage? We've all been in dressing rooms. You are right on top of each other. How are you going to do that? You get on stage, if it's a musical, you're singing, dancing, sweating, kissing, spitting. It's not safe. It's just not safe to be on stage. But once we get rid of this horrible virus, and if there is a vaccine, I think it'll come back bigger and stronger than it ever was. And I think that, some of the shows that have closed probably were due to close anyway. And the ones that were just about to open and stuff, I think they'll probably hang on and they'll open them up again. They'll come up with something. I don't think any of the houses are in jeopardy. I don't think we're going to lose anything like buildings. I don't think
Right.
so. I haven't heard anything like that at all. I know that there are some summer theaters that absolutely, they pitched a tent and they're doing their summer stock in a tent, and they're separating people. Surflight in New Jersey is doing that. They just had Cabaret, and now they're doing Mamma Mia. And they have a tent and lighting and on a stage. They built a stage, and I thought, wow, good for them. That's clever.
Right.
And there's one in Massachusetts that did that also. But I think it'll all come back. It's all, everybody's unfortunately out of work now. And that's scary because you still have to pay your rent and you still have to eat. You have to live.
Yeah.
But as long as they extend the unemployment, and if they get their act together and put that extra, we're not on any kind of unemployment, but we're officially retired. They were all getting that extra $600, and now I think it's going down to $300 or $400. I think they need to do that. I think I'm not just talking about the theater people, I'm talking about a lot of people, because it's not their fault. Nobody is out of work this time because it's their fault.
Right.
So the government has to step up to the plate
Yeah.
fully. But we don't want to talk about that because that's another whole story. But anyway,
Absolutely.
I think it's going to come back. I think there will be some scars. There will be scar tissue, and there will be some things that will be hurt by it. And I don't remember the two that officially closed. There are two that announced an official closing, and I can't remember what they are.
I know what you're talking about. It was back a bit, but I remember two shows shut down. They closed the
Yeah.
door.
But I think they were running for a long time anyway. I mean, I could be wrong about that. Phil, do you remember the two? I can't remember isn't that terrible? Senior
Well,
moment. I can't remember anything. But,
Ebenezer could always go in.
yeah, that would be great. The Ebenezer was supposed to be done at Surflight this Christmas, but they can't do that one outside because it's at winter time. But I would love Ebenezer to be done. It's really good. It's really
Well, you could
good.
always take it to South America because it's always Christmas in July down there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Going on tour.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Rosie,
So
this was an absolute privilege and a treat catching up with you and really getting to hear your story. Like, I've heard so many bits and pieces and on like little things around it, but not to this depth. Like, this was just an absolute privilege. And thank you so
oh,
much for this.
thank you. Thank you. That's very sweet, Philip. Thank you.
I really can't wait. And like, if there was anything I could do to make this movie come to life, I would do it hands down. I wouldn't even hesitate.
Well, it's starting to roll. It's starting to happen. It's just the wheels, I guess, in Hollywood move a lot slower than the wheels of theater. And I'm used to theater. You know, it goes a
Oh,
little quicker.
I know. I
Yeah.
get
So
it.
I said to Bill, I'm learning to be very patient in my old age because I was never patient about anything. But as long as I keep seeing things, positive things happening, and I know that April Wright is a go-getter, the woman who wants to do it.
The
And
right people will definitely move the story forward.
yeah,
It's such a collaborative team effort.
yeah. Yeah, so I think it's going to happen. It just when we don't know. But I'm having a great time with her in the documentary. It's so good. I hope you get to see it one of these days.
I have no doubt I will. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think it's coming out on disc at close to Christmas time because it's been out in theaters for about a year. But she really did a good job, and she went all over the country. All over the country. So there's some really cool theaters in there. And she's from Chicago. I've never been to Chicago, but there are 3 theaters there that they're reviving. They're restoring. And one is enormous. It's gorgeous. And there's these private people are raising money, millions of dollars to restore these gorgeous, gorgeous places. You know?
The passion's there, the love is there, the
Yeah,
money's real.
right, right.
And I
So
think it's really just a matter of telling the story, raising awareness, and saying this is the deal.
right.
Cut your eye, plain and simple. This is what we stand for, and we need your support.
Right. And I think it also helps the community where they are. In this a film that April did, they interview a guy. There's 6 of us that are interviewed in this film. I don't remember his name. He's a young Black man. And when I first saw him, I thought he was so young. But he had his real occupation was in finance. After you see him, like the 3rd time he talks about that. And he, one of these beautiful theaters in Chicago was, crumbling. And his mother told him that they were going to sell it or demolish it. And he somehow got the money together to get this theater. And he is so proud of what he's done. And he takes you around and shows you how the lights have been restored. Beautiful place, beautiful place. And he's so passionate about, I said to April, I hope someday I want to meet him because he's in Chicago and I'm here, but one of these days this film is going to be done and we're both going to be there and for the screening. And I'm so anxious to meet this guy because he is so passionate about what he has done. And he did such a beautiful job and they're doing concerts there now, but he goes outside and he filmed. The part of the filming is that whatever part of Chicago that is, I don't know Chicago.
Right.
And he said, and there used to be a restaurant over here and a thing over here and a shop over here. And it just, when the theater closed, all that went away.
Right. No traffic.
At all. And got beat up and kind of slummy and messy. And now that the theater's revived, they're coming back. And so the whole neighborhood is better for it. There's a theater here in New York up on 175th Street.
Wow.
Yeah, it's what is it, Bill? United Palace. It was a movie palace years ago. It was built in the 20s.
Yeah.
And then in the 70s, in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, they sold it to Reverend Ike, and he used it as a church.
I know that name.
He didn't change anything. He maintained it and kept it clean, but he didn't change anything. And now it's back to a theater. And Bill and I found out about this place, and they were running Miracle on 34th Street. And so we got a couple of our friends, and we thought, let's go up and see Miracle on 34th Street for Christmas. Sure. And we had never been there. And we walked into the lobby, and we just went, oh.
Really?
Is that ornate? And we went into the auditorium. They have an organ that comes up, a big, pretty white one, and it was playing. And, oh, no, not that one. That one doesn't have an organ. The one in Jersey City has an organ. But it was kind of beat up, but you could see how beautiful it was.
Sure.
And so they would show a classic every so often, and we'd go with some friends, or Bill and I would go up there. And then last year, Bill and I went up to see something, Rear Window or something, I don't know. And we walked in, we were by ourselves, and we walked in and we went, oh, what happened? It was clean, and the curtain was clean, and the ceiling was, oh, it was gorgeous. Lin-Manuel Miranda lives up in Washington Heights, and he put money into it.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Beautiful.
He did Hamilton, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Good.
Beautiful. The theater is beautiful.
Way to pay it forward, man. Good job.
Yeah. So he put his money, literally put his money where his mouth is.
I
Bravo
was
to
just
him.
gonna say
It is
that.
really, he did a beautiful job restoring it. If you get a chance, go. It's
That's on 175th Street.
175th and Broadway. The A train will take you right there.
Copy.
Almost right across the street. And they do classic, well, nothing now because of COVID, but what they did, they would run classic movies every so often. They did concerts and things there too, but we would go see the classic films. And the other one is in Jersey City. It's Jersey City Lowe's. And that is very easy to get to. You take the path and you're literally across the street. And we went into that too. That lobby made my knees weak. It's so beautiful. And that one has an organ. It comes up on the orchestra pit. It's white and gold and turns around. And oh, that place is just beautiful. And they're restoring that one too.
Thank God.
Yeah, and they're huge. That one holds 3,000 people. That one's big. That one's really big. Yeah. Not as big as the music hall. Music hall holds
6,000. No, I mean.
Yeah.
Oh, like, I don't know. I had a dream when I was 12 years old that I was actually standing on stage before 5,000 people, but I guess it was a little smaller than Radio City.
Just a little.
Just a little.
Not much, just a little.
I just remember somebody saying there's 5,000 people out there. Or maybe it was Radio City and it didn't sell out. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I've been there when there were only 5,000. I was there when there were only 5, but
you guys came out from out of the red and really took it back.
Well, we didn't take it back. We just saved it from the wrecking ball. Other people brought it back. But they're doing, unfortunately, no, I shouldn't say unfortunately. It's run by Madison Square Garden now.
And they know about your story, and they're not.
They don't want to know. They don't care. Yeah, my publisher tried to get them to sell the book in the lobby during the Christmas show. We went back and forth several times, and basically the last email we got was, thanks for saving Radio City. This is what it said. Thanks for saving Radio City Music Hall. We don't sell books through a third party. Best of luck. Yeah. Kind of makes me want to do something unladylike with my fingers. But anyway,
Oh my God. Yeah, forget them. You know what? They're lost. Do the movie.
Right. Move on. Yes, exactly.
Bigger, better things await.
Well, I'm going to have to mosey now.
This was great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This was fun. I had a good time. It was a lot of fun.
I really hope all this blows over soon and we get to hang out and see each other again over the holidays and just see what we could do.
I hope so too.
Get back to normal.
Yeah. Stay safe. Stay well.
You too. You and your husband.
Thanks for your interest.
Both. And we'll be in touch. I can't wait to show this to my executive producers. I think they're just gonna cry hearing the story. They're gonna love it.
I don't want to make them cry, but I hope they enjoy the story anyway.
Tears of joy. I have no doubt they're gonna want to meet you.
Oh, it would be my pleasure.
God bless you, Rosie. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Ciao.